is a meteor speeding towards the table and being almost certain to hit it. And then you say a meteorite as soon as it's hit the table.
So you could say...
But then it hasn't hit the Earth. It's hit the table that's on top of the Earth.
So you could say that a meteor hitting the table wouldn't be meteorite?
No, it'd be meteor wrong.
Yep.
Exactly right. Well, if you're out there as some kind of meteorologist, no, that's not going to help because then you're just going to tell us about the weather.
Also, how does that work? You go out in space? Because then it would be a meteorite-rologist.
A meteorologist?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got deep into the weeds there, but it looks like things have been sorted out now. Both players with keep ball openers as well, so we're going to have a good game of Magic here between these two players. Jorge on the top, Sean on the bottom. We got things straightened out. All right. Much better opening hand here for Sean. I mean, more or less any 7 is better than an opener of 5. But it's a Leafkin Druid that's going to kick things off here for Jorge, and he's on track to start slamming down some of those 5 drops here. Cavalier of Thorns, Nissa, who shakes the world.
The hand didn't really change much for Jorge, but
no,
I guess starting on 7 is quite the big advantage. But here you see like the whole game frame unfolding, right? Mm-hmm. Play ramp, play maybe another ramp, Cavalier, Nissa, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And that's all you basically will see, right? It just makes more mana, and then maybe even casting the finale naturally out of 12 lands, which happens a lot of the time, especially if you have Risen Reef. Mm-hmm. You play another Risen Reef. Quasi-Duplicate is such a strong card because it lets you copy the effect you need right now, which is usually Cavalier, but then if Cavalier dies, it gets it back, and so on. It's super resilient as long as you get to the stage where you can unfold the whole power.
Now this is something that's really important to know about Finale of Devastation, which I love this. This is the play of the day. This is the play of the day.
Nice.
And top-tier BM as well. Get in there with that Leafkin Druid. The block here, Sean already on the back foot. This is a power move. Forcing your opponent into a defensive position, attacking with a 0-3, getting in there with some good old-fashioned BM as well. I love this from Jorge.
Beautiful.
What a play from him. What a play from him.
Like we always talk about assessing like the gameplay and the state that it is.
Yeah.
But assessing BM and also the way it's like...
Oh, much more important.
You saw now, and this is like highly strategical, right?
Yeah.
You saw there could have been a block from Sean
Yeah.
with the goose. But he clearly assessed at the right moment, not blocking is the right choice.
Not blocking was definitely the right choice, but even then he still was outplayed.
Yeah. No, I know, but you just made the best out of the situation.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to make the best out of a bad situation.
Right. He didn't completely fall to the attack. He
No.
just said, okay, I could have blocked. I panicked, right? I messed up.
Yeah.
But he clearly saw not blocking is the right
And which is really important. You know, you can't... You've got to... And you know what as well? Restraint from him there, not attacking with the goose. A lot of people would have been tempted to. He didn't fall into the trap.
Yeah.
So now, with 5 mana available, we can see Cavalier of Thorns or Nissa come down. This Castle Vantra is going to enter the battlefield. Tap no islands here for Jorge. So what do you go for here, Toffel?
Probably trying to make the most rampy spells possible.
Which would definitely be Nissa.
Right, because once Nissa stays on the battlefield, your opponent needs to kind of answer it with a Murder Strider, or she lives for a longer period of time, then you win anyway. If she's going, well, that's fine. You play the Cavalier after, because once the Cavalier is dead, you can bring back the Nissa. Also, the Cavalier ramps you. If you use Nissa plus on a land, the Cavalier actually makes you have the 4th creature, which then lets your Druid add 2 additional mana.
That's a great point.
So this deck looks pretty slow, but once it hits this point, from next turn on, it will be so many spells, so much mana unfolding each turn.
Once it kind of passes a threshold,
yes,
it really, things really start to get buck wild.
Also, one of the decks that uses Castle Vantra supremely well.
Yeah,
like it's so like Risen Reef, and then you see next turn the Risen Reef and the Cavalier together are so strong because there's no way that you're not doing anything every turn.
So Gilded Goose now is going to be used to pick up a Murderous Rider, sacrificing a food for mana, which then pays for the Trail of Crumbs. Nice little combo there. But Murderous Rider is a clean answer to Nissa. The damage may have already been done. She powered out that copy of Growth Spiral there, Tovel.
And now you have actually an interesting decision.
Okay.
You could easily say, this board looks pretty messed up, right? I kind of have to make extreme measures happening, and that could mean that you're baiting your opponent into activating Nissa a few more times, and then Massacre can go all the lands away.
Right.
because you know your opponent is not interacting with you as a counterspell. That will happen if you wanted to. The only thing that's a major downside to that is that your opponent could cast Hydro Crisis, and that would be like very bad.
It'd be devastating, yeah.
So it is a consideration, but the more you're behind, the better the interest in that play becomes. But since Sean is saying like, okay, my hand is pretty good. I have a Devil, I have another Murderous Rider. I can deal with a lot of problems as they come. I don't need to do that right now.
Hydro Crisis off the top here for Jorge. He would have hoped, of course, to still have that Nissa around for all the extra mana, because he just would have gone absolutely bananas there. Risen Reef into Cavalier of Thorns. Oh my goodness me, are you kidding?
Yeah, but you still do the Risen Reef Cavalier thing, and then next turn you have so much mana.
So with the Risen Reef, of course, those Leafkin Druids would produce 2 mana each. So this is going to mean that he can, that Jorge can deploy both the Risen Reef and the Cavalier of Thorns. And of course, that's the order in which you want to cast those cards.
Well, very good. You see you know your Magic stuff.
Oh, mate, I've played a game of Magic or two. I haven't won.
There's card A and card B that depends on A, so you have A, B,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, you could play them in the other order. Wouldn't be as good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you probably got a 50-50 shot on that being right, but...
I do, yeah. Ooh, another Risen Reef off the top. How about this? Can I tempt you?
You could. I would say it's better to cast Cavalier. You can see...
Yeah,
if you look at your opponent and it's just like, wow, that card was good, you probably think, that probably was good.
It's not good, not good for me. But no, it's going to be the Cavalier here, so the sensible choice. But I'd be very tempted to cast that second Risen Reef, cash in that bit of extra value.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, going to be Risen Reef first. Doesn't look like it's a land here. No, Quasi-Duplicate, however, is a nice one.
Would have probably liked to mill that, but in hand it's another copy of stuff. One of the advantages of casting Cavalier, if you hit a land from the Risen Reef, you can choose to not put it onto the battlefield. That means you still draw it. Then the Cavalier hits land, you could also cast the Risen Reef after.
Yes, that's a good point, because instead of putting it onto the battlefield, tap with the Risen Reef, you could just put it in your hand and play it as your land for the turn. Now, that didn't happen, but that is something that I'm sure Jorge would have kept in mind here.
And now, I mean, you have an Oven and a Trail. Ooh. Unfortunately, that's a bit too expensive, but at least it would get rid of, like, at least... it's not even that good anymore, right?
No, destroy everything.
Massacre Girl, get rid of everything.
Wouldn't it? It'd destroy it because it kills the Risen Reef, which then kills the Goose, which then kills everything else.
Technically, that's very correct. Love that play. Well done.
Did you not see that?
1-0
to Riley. 1-0 to Riley.
How do I get to 0?
Because your points don't count. It's your job. It's literally your job to sit there and tell us correct things. It's not mine.
Isn't your job to make me look better?
I don't know. Let's move on. We've got a lot to cover here, Toffel, today. We don't have time to get into the ins and outs of who's doing what and what's doing when and all that sort of stuff. Massacre Girl here is going to live up to her name well and truly. It's going to be an absolute massacre here. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this card, it gives -1/-1 to all creatures except herself. But then an additional -1,
Take the goose.
-1,
very good,
whenever another creature dies, which means that the Gilded Goose is going to be enough now to put extra triggers on the stack to kill those 3/3s or those 3 toughness creatures, which will then be enough to kill the Cavalier of Thorns. And then you're left with a 4/4 and total control of the board.
Yep, that looks pretty good. You can put something on top now. You could get Nissa back, but Nissa favors not well against Massacre Girl if there are no creatures. Also, you really would like to have like a land in order to cast Risen Reef Quasi-Duplicate. I think I like that actually. Because you need to get the ramp going again, right? Oh, Massacre was so good. The one-off Massacre Girl, that's where you play that, you know? One of the advantages of playing those decks, especially if you have Tray of Crumb, is you can find your one-offs more reliably. So playing one-offs that have specific abilities that are so extreme are actually very valuable.
And that's actually something we see typically in modern decks, in blue modern decks that have a high velocity. We talk about velocity cards, that are decks that are able to burn through cards very quickly. And here, in this situation, we're seeing it happen in a green deck, thanks to Trail of Crumbs. Here's Risen Reef, finds Nissa off the top, but we're going to see a second Risen Reef now as well with Quasi-Duplicate.
That would be such a good...
Nice. Yeah. And that's not even BM. That's just honest commentary.
But that's the thing. Like, that's why nice is the superior comment, because the way you phrase it has so many different applications.
No, but if we're talking about it in a BM metagame...
No. You can go like, nice, or...
No.
Nice.
I'm saying it's still good in BM, but it's not the top tier BM pick.
How do you say
it's not
oops
an S
multiple
BM.
times?
What?
Like, how do you go with your oops?
No. Oops. I'm saying that oops is surgical. right?
Surgical.
It's never oops is never GM, whereas nice can be GM sometimes. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but nice can also be so many different forms of BM.
That's true.
Where
but
oops can only be oops.
No, that's not true. No. Your understanding of BM
Right.
is
What I wanted to say is
extremely poorly
Mayhem
developed.
Devil is such a wrecking ball right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, with those 1/1s hanging around. Are you kidding? Just machine guns them down here.
And you really don't want your opponent to have that additional trigger of both of them. So I assume right now the Cavalier will be cast, and then you want to, kind of do anything in response.
So what goes on here? The Mayhem Devil can be used in conjunction with the Witch's Oven, maybe the food as well here to destroy both Risen Reefs, or maybe just one. It depends what kind of trade you're willing to make.
Yeah, I think if your opponent casts the Cavalier now, you really want to get rid of both of them. So that means you have to sacrifice your girl to the oven and also crack a food, which seems really annoying, but it just seems like you really have to do that because
You're just giving away too much value otherwise.
Your game situation right now is on value, right? You have the Tray of Crumbs, Witch's Oven, and you need to ride that to victory, and you cannot let your opponent catch up on that. Because you're also on the clock, right? If they cast Finale of Devastation to get something bigger, to start like the Cavalier of Thorns chain, to cast a Hydra case that's enormous, you're probably behind.
Well, here's the Cavalier of Thorns now. And Sean's taking his time and thinking about what he wants to do. Can sacrifice the food, destroy one of the Risen Reefs. Can also pop one of his creatures in the oven to destroy the other one.
Also, the Massacre Girl is probably not really attacking for a longer period of time.
Especially for 5/6 is resolving, yeah.
It does have menace, but probably there's more coming next turn, and I love that.
Okay, yep. Destroy the Massacre Girl, sacrifice the Massacre Girl, 1 damage to destroy the token copy of Risen Reef, and that means while Cavalier of Thorns is still obviously going to provide a little bit of value, nowhere near as much as it would have otherwise.
Yeah, one of the unfortunate happenings right now is because your opponent will probably get another land. The quasi-duplicate means another Cavalier, and that's where the deck got really out of... Oh, there was no land? Ah, there was.
No, there was.
Yeah, okay. And that's where the deck really gets out of control. And you just saw what happened, right? There was a turn where Massacre Girl wrecked the whole board.
Yes.
And then 2 turns later, we are at this.
Yep, 10 power.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, and I like one of the problems that ramp decks traditionally struggle with is consistency and resiliency. This is one of the most consistent, most resilient ramp decks I've ever seen.
It's enormous because of Risen Reefs, your Elemental, the Leafkin Druid, is so good in the later stage of the game.
Whereas normally a Llanowar Elves in the late game is just dead.
Exactly. The Growth Spire is not a deck card in any state of the game.
Cantrips, yep.
And then your late cards are so good early, like your Hydra Crisis can be even for 2.
Yeah, I disagree a little more with that point. Like if you draw a Finale of Devastation, your opener, like you're just looking at it. Like
no, it's still a Grazer on 3. That's really good play.
Yeah, but I mean that's not what you're wanting to use it for. You look at there are definitely dead draws.
No, they're not dead. It's not what you want to use it for, but you can use it, and that's the upside.
Okay.
Like actually using it for a 1-mana green Sun Zenith, for that matter, is very powerful if you need to cast Nissa on turn 4.
Okay, if you just have to find that. Yeah. All right. I take your point. It's
1-1.
Well, no. That was a draw, so it's still 1-0 or 2-1. 2-1. We both get a point.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So it's 2-1 for me.
I have a feeling that all of a sudden when we argue about numbers, you're pretty good at them.
Yeah, well, look, we've got to keep going here, Tuffle. We've got to keep going. Give us some analysis on this board state, please.
So, Cavaliers are attacking. Isn't that your turn? It seems that the whole, and that's what the late game advantage is all about, the Simic rank deck, I mean, it's called RAM for a reason, is so overwhelming that you, as a simple mid-range value that cannot keep up with that. Because you have 1 Murderous Rider. What are you ridering? Like, there will be a Nissa, next time there will be a Crisis. If you get rid of your Rider, the quasi-duplicates are on at every point in time. Whenever you kill a Cavalier, they get like a permanent back on top, which is usually the best card. There is an Agent of Treachery in the graveyard we saw from looking through it. So that means you can play that over. One of the most beautiful things in the world, I tell you, is quasi-duplicate Agent of Treachery. Like, it's so...
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because also when you get it 3 times, you draw 3 cards.
Oh, yeah.
You know what certainly never happened to me? And I promise never happened, like even once, is that I had to draw 3 cards from my Agent of Treachery 3 times and die to decking.
that didn't happen to you?
Definitely
I'm glad that never happened to you here. Well, right now, instead of an Agent of Treachery, we're going to see an enormous Hydroid Crisis here. Nissa, who shakes the world, untapping a breeding pool. Now, the Murderous Rider, of course, with Swift End can get rid of this Nissa, but then there's just going to be a 10-10 Krasis to deal with. That's drawn 5 cards and gained 5 life, let's not forget.
Oh, right. That also does that.
It also does that. It also is a little mini Sphinx's Revelation, and
ding,
and
ding, ding.
Jorge is letting us know. He's letting us know he's found something special here. This game is going to be over next turn, of course, because Finale of Devastation can search not only just the library, but also the graveyard for any creature card, put it onto the battlefield, give all those creatures +10/+10 haste and trample on everything else, and all of a sudden, Sean's just going to be. He's going to be in a world of pain. He's only on 6. He's already facing
It's like a universe of pain.
It's a universe of pain. It's a multiverse of pain. Maybe not that far. Maybe it went too far. In any case, Finale of Devastation, well and truly going to live up to his name. Absolutely going to devastate Sean here. Jorge channeling his inner Jeff Kaplan by making absolutely devastating plays here.
There's little hope, I would say, in using the casualties, but it's just delaying the inevitable.
I mean, it's sweet, right?
Well, it looks cool.
It's funny how this as a sweet 3-for-1 is not that impressive.
You killed a Planeswalker, a land, and a 10/10.
Yeah, and you're dying next turn.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Now, is there enough mana for 6/9? No, there's not enough mana to go and get the pigs. So what does he use that Finale of Devastation for next turn?
I probably doesn't.
No, just attacks with the 5/6s. That's also a good way to win. Just attack with enormous big creatures.
You could get. Can you get Endra's Forerunners? I think you just can. You have 9 mana, right? Yeah. So you just naturally look for it, without the kicker. I know it's a bit sad.
Yeah, it's not what you want to use the card for, but it's still going to do good work here.
Finale of medium devastation.
Yeah, finale of mild inconvenience. All right, yep. Oh, bit of a friend request there from Jorge, picking up a couple of buddies on MTGA.
Well, they both have 2 buddies, so it's even.
You have an MTGA?
0.
Yeah, 0 for me as well. You Topple offered it to me. I was like, nah, never.
That's a lie.
Never in 1,000 years. All right, here's this Finale of Devastation. And he's going to go and get the Endra's Forerunners, which is in the bin. X equals 8. Now, even though this isn't the X, the X equals 10 all-out horrific
It's equaled over
devastation, it is still going to do a lot of good work here. Even with the pigs coming down, giving everything +2/+2.
You gotta admire. Look, everybody loves Endra's Forerunner, right? I think there's not a single word.
And a supremely good. Oh, look at that. Marvelous. And this is why Nice is such low tier BM. Such low tier BM as we see Your Go used after an enormous Finale of Devastation finds that Endra's Forerunners, and that is that. Game number 1 going to Jorge, who outplayed his opponent on every single axis. We saw the early attack with the Leafkin Druid. We saw the Your Go finishing things off. A game of Magic was played in between those two things, but what really stood out to me there, Jorge's mastery of the BM metagame.
You know how there are like drafts where you have to flavor draft as you use the cards. I think there should be like a tournament just for you.
Yeah.
Where people, it doesn't matter what they play or how they play.
It's just BM. No, it matters how they play. It doesn't matter what they play, but it matters how they play.
I mean, not really strategically magic-wise of how they
play. Oh
play.
no, bugger that. I mean, who's interested in that? Nerds.
Which
just nerds are sitting here watching Magic the Gathering. I would love to cast a BM tournament. I would love to. I'd get the spikiest, nastiest, most BM. I'd get Seth Manfield to talk trash. I'd get you'd need a nice guy there as well.
Wouldn't that be Canister?
Canister would definitely be. He'd be a headline act. I'd get Andre as well because he's such a nice dude. Let's see if he could rise through the ranks to actually,
So that's like an underdog story.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think he'd be terrible. I think he'd be terrible at BM. He's so nice.
Okay. What do you think about actually doing our job?
I'm less keen on that, to be honest. You want to talk about sideboarding? What's going on here?
So, actually there is not much happening, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the Junt list has to try to be as quick as possible.
Right.
Drop all the late game shenanigans.
Yeah.
Casualty of Wars, out it. Nobody really needs it. And you get Shifting Ceratops, maybe...
Lovestruck Beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And then you just try to kill your opponent. I don't even know what the Wicked Wolf is for, honestly. It's... Maybe you need 1 or 2 on a specific situation.
He's brought it in. This hand doesn't look great. Going to mulligan now. Double Goose, Noxious Grasp, Trail of Crumbs. That one looks much better here.
That is beautiful, yeah. You need to. That's a bit of a weird spot, right? You need to get rid of the Cavaliers and the Risen Reef, but then again, it's not the cards you really want to use for in your hand because that's not advancing your game plan. And if you're prohibiting theirs, there are so many different other spells who still unfold that. So I would rather focus on bringing in the stuff that matters and trying to not be reactive. And on the other side, well, Jorge is probably bringing just Ether Gusts and that's it.
So both players mulliganing to 6 here, and we're going to see Gilded Goose open the account for Sean. Jorge, on the other hand, is going to have a bit of a slower start unless he finds something here. Oh no, but double Risen Reef is a nice way for him to get himself back into it here. It's going to undo that mulligan, and even if the first one eats Noxious Grasp, I mean, if it doesn't, then we're going to make some real hay here.
Oh, double Risen Reef is so powerful.
Trail of Crumbs as the follow-up play. So things looking pretty good now for Sean after his mulligan. Ether Gust is not a bad one as well off the top here for Jorge.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Sean, there are multiple answers to Core World, which would be the prime card to get back into the game.
Yes.
Like, back in.
Well, you talked about wanting to be aggressive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Often Corvold will come down, eat something, pick up a counter, draw cards, maybe you sacrifice food, chuck something up and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Next turn, it's not unusual to see the card attack for 10 or more because of how easy it is for Jund's Sacrifice to just completely ruin its own board in order to pile things onto a Corvold.
It's like, it hurts me much more than it hurts you.
But it hurts you a lot more.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I like this.
Oh.
I like this. This is a very aggressive play here for Jorge, but he needs to find some way to actually stay relevant in this game. He needs to find a way to actually interact or do anything. And also, the other thing about an Ether Gust on a Gilded Goose, you don't really want to redraw it. Often it is just a Doomblade because often players won't put it on the top of their library. We're going to see Sean do it. He does want the extra copy of Gilded Goose here, which is fine.
I think just playing Core World on 4 is such an appealing game plan that you're trying to hit the land next turn. Even if you don't, you get a food for the Trail of Crumbs, and at this point they cast the demo.
Okay, all right. So you set yourself up there for some top-level analysis, but it looks like Sean is just not willing to play ball with us here.
I was trying.
You were trying.
But this is kind of a concession to the point that I'm going.
It's just so good. It's so good. I'm so impressed by Jorge's PM. I'm so impressed. Anyway, sorry, go on.
To the point earlier that he wants to really put on the beatdown and say, okay, I need 3/3 now. I want to use the ability to maybe shoot Risen Reefs as it actually happened, and then just start to deal 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, and maybe later use like the engine to get back if I need to. But the Goose, the way before, doesn't help me as much because maybe Core World even playing is too risky.
Mayhem Devil gets in for 3 after taking down that Risen Reef here. But with another one in hand, in addition to that Leafkin Druid, I'm interested to see how Jorge wants to play this turn out.
Yeah, Risen Reef seems a lot less appealing.
Well, I think you just go Leafkin Druid and leave up Disdainful Stroke because one of the cards you're worried about is Corvold. Often by the time it comes down, especially when there's a Mayhem Devil, it's just going to do too much damage. Even if you deal with it next turn with whatever card you have in green, blue, which aren't many, I think leaving up the Disdainful Stroke offers the highest payoff here because you can always you cast the Risen Reef next turn.
Yep.
Ooh, even more. Okay, getting even greedier here, wanting to cast Leafkin Druid and Risen Reef together, and says your go as well. Wow, what aggressive posturing here. Very clearly. So it's tank, 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 land, go, your go. I mean, no one's buying that he's just going to activate that blast zone. Sean will be thinking about this.
Yeah, I was thinking as well because it's appealing to get rid of the Trail of Crumbs.
He's going to go for it. He's going to go for it, and he's going to get absolutely riggedy wrecked. Corvold, the Fake Curse King. I mean, I think you just have to play around the Disdainful Stroke, but Jorge's like, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, and he also, like, he's nodding. He's like,
yeah. It worked. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it, chat. I did not expect it to pan out in that fashion. I definitely would have played the Leafkin Druid if I were in Jorge's position. He's taking 3, but he doesn't care about that. He's just run rings around his opponent now. And from this position, he can go Risen Reef into Leafkin Druid, full greed mode activated, driving towards that Endray's Forerunners in his hands. What a master!
Yep. But also, Risen Reef probably won't see the light of day until that Druid comes down. The Goose and the Trail of Crumbs still look like use the Mayhem Devil to shoot 1 damage.
That's true. That is true. Bit of a safety valve there on the Risen Reef. Yep.
So now we're at the point where actually Sean has a very good spot of using now the damage from the devil in order to like make your opponent like do something quickly, but also getting those cards back from Trail of Crumbs, which is often will be great if you find another cat, if you find just anything really you can sacrifice to it, maybe even the goose, you know. You don't need that much anymore.
No, the goose isn't doing a whole lot. I mean, as a food production engine, I guess it's very useful, but you've got Witch's Oven in hand for that as well.
Yeah, you need to find the closing spells.
So here's the Risen Reef. I imagine it's going to eat a Mayhem Devil trigger before very much longer. Ooh, but a Cavalier of Thorns off the top is a nice one.
That's really good.
So Leafkin Druid, the follow-up play now. There it is. And that will, yeah, we're going to see a food get sacrificed for mana, pay the mana into Trail of Crumbs, get the trigger from the Mayhem Devil, all sorts of action going on the stack here, but ultimately a nice little sequence for Sean, who finds the card he needs. There's the Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah, the cat is out of the bag.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's a real English idiom that you used, and that was a top 10. That was a great execution there.
Not
10
like
out of
you,
10.
Who's a real English idiot.
I guess.
I tried.
Yeah. I mean,
look, I'm not good with.
no, it's fine. I mean, you struggle with German.
I
so
doubled down and I missed.
He's got dealt 2 10s, and you're like, yep, yep,
double, hit me,
split him. Let's go. Oh dear. All right. So Cauldron Familiar, Witch's Oven in hand here for Sean. That's the little combo that we've come to know from this list: Mayhem Devil and Trail of Crumbs. So the gang's all here.
Yeah, don't you just dump your hand and say like Uno?
Yes, I think you actually do. I think you're actually right. You do. You play the Mayhem Devil, you play the Witch's Oven, you play the Cauldron Familiar. Uno, your turn.
Yeah, you'll go.
Yeah. And then if your opponent plays a draw 4, you're like, great.
Yeah.
Great, I'll pick him up. So Jorge, once again, Cavalier of Thorns in hand for him. Andre's Forerunners as well. But he needs... he's at risk. It doesn't look like it on the board. It doesn't look like it, but he's at risk of being swamped here.
Well, this is not swamped. It's like a tsunami. The finale of devastation turned around on you.
No, it's not. It's definitely not a tsunami, because tsunami like hits you very hard all at once, right? This is like this is rising floodwaters, is what this is.
All right, got you.
Yeah, it's slow and ponderous, but it will get the job done.
Ooh, interesting. Also now, we're at the point where Sean's saying like, what am I losing against?
Yeah.
And one of the answers would be Agent of Treachery.
Yes.
So Sean says, okay, there's no way that you're casting that next turn, and I don't want you to cast that next turn because that could take away the Witch's Oven, which gets rid of your sacrifice outlet. So instead of saying like, oh, okay, that damage could go to you and then maybe kill you next turn, well, that happens probably anyway, so we just get rid of the druid.
But he's got him dead next turn, right?
Anyway, yeah.
He untaps and just wins the game.
But it looks
spot.
so juicy, right? To say like, okay, I'm killing you just right now. I'm in the mode of killing you.
Yeah.
Just shoot everything
No,
at you.
discipline. A lot of discipline from Sean there, which is great to see. And I think Jorge has kind of crunched the numbers and realised that this jig is up. He plays Cavalier of Thorns, puts a land into play. Mills over that finale of devastation, plays another land, but this is it. This is going to be it, because Witch's Oven plus Cauldron Familiar plus double Mayhem Devil. I think that's more than enough to take an opponent down from 6 to 0, especially when you've got a goose to poop out another food token here.
Yeah, there are 1,000 different ways to kill your opponent.
Well, that's what they say. More than one way to skin a cat, Toffel.
Oh. Well, in this deck, there's only one way to skin a cat.
Not really. You can go from the top to the bottom. You can go from the bottom to the top. We shouldn't be talking about skinning cats. Cats are great. Cats are the best animal. That's a true fact. That's not actually. Squirrels are kind of good as well.
You would rate squirrels higher than cats?
Okay, first of all, Australian animals higher tier than every other animal, right? Kangaroos, wallabies, echidnas, platypus,
Like
all that sort of
crocodile?
stuff. Yeah, sure. Oh, well, they're not exclusively Australian. I'm talking about the Australia DLC exclusives.
Oh.
Right?
Tasmanian devil.
Tasmanian devil, exactly. They're all extremely high tier. But right now, we've got Jorge going down in game number 2 to Sean. That's done. Great. We don't have to talk about that anymore. Australian animals, highest tier animals.
You know what's funny? Because tier in German is animal.
It's animal. Yeah, of course it is.
So highest tier actually makes a lot more sense if you rate animals.
So Australian animals, Australian exclusive animals, all highest tier.
So I have a question.
Go on.
You mean like the emus?
Emus, yep.
Yeah. Isn't that
I don't want to talk about this. I knew you were going to bring this up. I knew you were going to find a way to weasel this into this broadcast here. I don't want to talk about the Great Emu War.
Could you at least say what happened?
Okay.
I know it's hard on you.
So in the 1930s, ladies and gentlemen, the Australian Army deployed artillery against a marauding band of about 20,000 emus, right? They were savaging their way across the wheat belt in Western Australia.
And how did that go?
Listen, it's not important about how the Great Emu War ended, okay? It's important that our boys got in there and they had a red-hot bloody go.
They lost.
We did lose a war against emus.
Cool.
We did. The Australian Army mobilised actual literal artillery, machine guns, against emus and withdrew later on.
Yeah.
The only thing that we took from it, as the major who was in charge of it wrote in his report, there were no casualties.
Yeah.
Yes. If you'd like to hear more about me talking about history, halfasshistory.net is my weekly history podcast. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug that one there, Toffel. You can get across that and have a listen to it. But right now, how about a game of Magic the Gathering, colon, a Deckmaster game. Gilded Goose on turn 1 here for Sean, hot off that game to win. Let's see if Jorge can put a bit more of a clinic on for us here. Double growth spiral, plenty of counterspells in hand, that finale of devastation to drive towards. He looks to be in a decent spot, and once again, we're going to see the Ether Gust on the Goose. What's the response here, Toffel?
Yeah, you probably are just letting that happen and draw it again, so you can cast Trail of Crumbs now, and then Trail of Crumbs and Goose next turn. Drawing the land for Jorge was so good because Growth Spiral is so medium when you don't put the land into play.
Yeah.
Of course. So you actually just want to draw multiple lands in a row. And this really, he's channeling this needs to be a land.
Yeah. He was charging it up, and it works, of course, yeah. 60% of the time it works every time because here is another Growth Spiral as well. Let's see if he charges this up as well. It's like Freddie Wong swinging around those nunchaku to charge him up.
I guess now you can at least pretend to have an Ether Gust, right? Like,
yeah. He's gonna try to sell his opponent on that. But the Gilded Goose, is once again loose.
The Goose. This is like not a Trail of Crumbs. This is more like a big track. So many food on the floor.
Oh,
sure. People throwing
yeah,
pizzas.
it's a highway of crumbs. There's just whole pizzas. Yeah, there's enormous like roast dinners and stuff on it.
Wow.
Oh, and he's done it again. He's done it again.
Unfortunately, it's a blue source. He really needs green. Yeah, and that point. This is a bit unfortunate because now casting Cavalier would have been so good. Instead, he has to probably settle for the Risen Reef from the finale.
I think you do that, yeah, as well. And you know what? I'm going to defer to the point you made earlier. Often you just want to cast the Finale of Devastation for 12 mana. Here, it's great. It's actually good because you can go...
It's actually a card.
It's actually much better than it would be if it were, I mean, Court of Calling, that sort of card, any kind of tutor like that is excellent. And Finale of Devastation, a little overcosted, but it still actually does something to the situation. Well, or not.
That's what you're paying for upfront, what could be good later, right?
Yeah.
It's bad in the early turns because it's really good late game, but it's still passable. But here the decision is I'd rather want to have Disdainful Stroke because if my opponent casts Core Walled or maybe a Wicked Wolf or something, that's pretty bad.
But Mayhem Devil is safe from the Disdainful Stroke. And, whoops, Mayhem Devil is getting stuck in with so much mayhem that it's just unplugged poor old Sean's computer here. See if he's able to reconnect to the game here. Yes, indeed. There we go. So a brief appearance from Shrek's stepfather there.
All the food was clogging up the pipelines.
Apparently so. Mayhem Devil comes back in. That's not the sort of mayhem that Sean was hoping for. You could see a very concerned look on his face as
and
that
I
happened.
really have to say, like, you're saying Jorge is a good BM player, right?
The best we've seen so far.
Yeah, my strategic analysis would be you have to say hello once your opponent reconnects. Like,
indeed. Yeah, no, he missed an opportunity there for sure. Yes, yeah, you definitely do that. If your opponent DCs and then reconnects, you definitely go hello as they come back in. That's very good. So Castle Vantress now, the activation here for Jorge, who'll be looking for a green source, and I'll tell you this, I don't think he's found one. Oh, no, sorry.
There's one top.
Words. He kept one on top. Yep.
Good analysis.
Well, he had to think about it for a while, which made me think that it wasn't an easy slam dunk green source on top.
Good analysis.
I did my best. I did my best with the tools available.
I know, and I know your mom said that's good enough, but,
Listen, my mum told me that I could be whatever I wanted.
Yeah, when
so
you were
I decided to become...
a superstar?
I decided to become...
That was not your mom.
A 2-bit commentator for a children's card game, my friends. I actually need to message Mum. I forgot that I told her that I'm online. I'm going to do that now. You entertain the chat.
So this is fairly even right now because the Ramtech really got to the point where the finale can look for the Cavaliers, so that means a Cavalier every turn. But on the other hand, I mean, there's 2 trails and 4 food tokens. The only problem is that really takes a lot of time. So it really depends on what they're getting now out of the trail of crumbs. This needs to be like an oven. This needs to be a cat. Maybe even another murder strider to like get rid of the creatures. Oh, oven! There we go.
There it is, off the top. Beautiful.
Woo!
All right. Trail of crumbs picking up the oven here.
Imagine you have like a lot of unbaked food and you're only meeting an oven. Like,
That's all you needed.
yeah.
Was just that oven to make
And
it all.
oven was just game. You know.
Do you know
like-
who I would like to meet? You know how people talk about, the best dinner guests you could possibly have, right? And everyone's like, oh, Abraham Lincoln or whatever else like that. Do you know what I want? I want to meet the person. I want to meet the human who figured out that cooked food tastes good. I want to be able to have a chat with them and be like, talk us through it. Talk us through your thought process. The person who first got a bit of meat and instead of just eating it raw was like, I'm going to put it on the fire first.
I have an add-on to the thing, right? So, when did we decide that putting like corn into like a thing to make it really hot and it becomes even better?
Oh yeah.
Why did we stop there?
Yeah.
Like we never tried it with anything
We've
else.
never, we've popped corn. Why have we not popped other things?
Exactly.
Let's put tomatoes.
Yeah. But we nobody tried
Let's
to
put
heat up tomato as high as something happens.
Let's put chicken nuggets in there. Let's put a pineapple in a saucepan with. Let's put a pineapple on a popcorn machine and see what happens. Jorge now tanking hard about what he wants to do here. Has got that Cavalier online.
Yeah.
Double finale in hand, Leafkin Druid, and the disdainful stroke to deal with something like that casualties of war. But the engine's been assembled, Toffel. It might be too late for him.
As good as it looked last turn, as miserable does it look now. Because now you get a Cavalier of Thorns, but what does it do? Like, now you don't have all the time in the world because your opponent is shooting you for a lot of damage over the turn. The Trail of Crumbs in the oven is just such a powerful engine. Like, this is... The oven was... It sounds weird to say, but that one mana artifact, right, is just what holds the deck together and makes the explosive gameplay.
Oh, it's like any good chef will tell you. You're only as good as the oven you cook with. Here's the Cavalier of Thorns now, searched off the finale of Devastation. And even though it's going to provide another land, maybe fuel a bigger finale next turn, it's not going to do enough here. Swift End and take care of the other 5/6.
I wonder if there's like a cap on the finale because you can't really play it because you need it for the Endrace Forerunners later in the game. Also because of the kicker. Like, you want to really use it to find something, but there is a board state where you just can't get enough damage over the natural course of the game.
And that's why you play the one copy of the Endrace Forerunners because you don't expect to draw it, you expect to tutor it.
That's also why you play exactly 2 copies of the finale, because you want to use one before, and you can actually find something after again. But if you get rid of your last copy, your deck gets so much less explosive because there's no 100 damage you can do in one turn.
You're just at the mercy of your draws, yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually, like, the cat blocks the Cavalier of Thorns multiple times.
Yep.
Casting those Cavaliers leads to your deck going empty pretty fast, and Nissa is not the fastest clock in the world, and wow.
Another Cauldron Familiar off the top here as well for Sean. You can see Jorge kind of slump in his seat a little bit. It's not looking good for him. Noxious Grasp as well, a way to clear the board. And with Sean's opponent tapped out, he's got his run of the battlefield at the moment. So there's the Cauldron Familiar. Pop that cat in the oven, and now it's off to the races. Mayhem Devil slowly working in conjunction with that Cauldron Familiar in order to work through the opponent's life total, in addition to the Trail of Crumbs, which is just going to continue to draw cards.
Yeah. At this point, you don't even really care about what you're drawing. You take any land. The second oven would be, I guess, the best thing. Maybe a second Mayhem Devil, but you're just trying to set up a game where you're not losing against the Agent of Treachery. And I think even if that hits the battlefield, you're still fine.
Wicked Wolf as well taken here. Cauldron Familiar comes back. And of course, don't forget the Mayhem Devil also triggered by the Fabled Passage. But keeping up that Noxious Grasp.
At this point, maybe even casting Noxious Grasp is just cool because you deal 3 damage. I can't fathom just using it for something else. It's not that you care about Nissa, so you just could use it, might as well just now.
So let's see what's next on the docket here. Jorge hitting the tank, massaging the old temples there. He's not in a good way.
No, you see really disdainful stroke being...
it's pronounced Riley, mate. It's pronounced Riley, not really.
Oh,
Go
Riley?
on, sorry. Yes.
No, O'Reilly.
Yeah.
You see what I did?
Yeah.
Because, okay.
Very good.
because I said I don't like the Stainless Stroke, and it was awesome against Corward earlier, but this is exactly the situation where it really just doesn't shine, because the opponent's deck really works without casting any of those expensive spells.
I think it's one of those cards you need to have for when you're ahead, actually, to keep you ahead, to make sure a Corval doesn't steal a game from you, or importantly, a Casualties of War.
Yeah, but if you're ahead, other cards are doing just fine. I get
Yeah, but what if they just blast out off into outer space with the Casualties of War? That's one
they
way.
don't. Your deck. We seen Casualty of War's cast. It was not impressive.
Okay.
I would expect my opponent to cut at least a few, if not all.
Yeah, right. So maybe it's just not even that good a card in this matchup. Murderous Rider off the trail of crumbs here. Sean continues to burn through his deck at light speed.
Hello. It's me, the Corward.
The one you were looking for. The Dragon King.
Fey Cursed King.
Mm-hmm. I think he was turned into a dragon.
So it is a Fey?
I'm not sure. No, I think he was cursed by the Fey and became a dragon, or was a dragon and then had a fur.
Oh, well, spoilers.
All right, mate.
What if somebody wants to read the lore?
He wants to. Oh, look. It's been out for how long has it been out? I'm going to spoil Star Wars for everyone.
How long has that been out?
I don't know.
2 days?
Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker's dad.
No.
Yeah, man.
No.
Yeah. Hey,
What?
You've had like 40 years to watch that film, all right?
I didn't.
Okay, you haven't personally, but it's been out for a long time. All right.
But does that mean, like, you do that?
Hmm?
Like,
Spoiling things?
yeah.
Oh, do you know, I'm going to tell you a story about what I spoiled one time. It's a long story, so we'll come back to it another time. But when the last Harry Potter book came out, I went mental. I'm going to tell this story later on. I was an obnoxious teenager, and it doesn't reflect well on me. Anyway.
Well, now you're not a teenager anymore.
No. Well, technically. On paper, no. Mayhem Devil number 2 now.
And that's game.
Yep, going to be enough here because, of course, with Jorge on 8, the Witch's Oven plus Cauldron Familiar, and a bunch of untapped mana, that's going to be enough to do it here.
This is one of the kind of downsides from the ramp deck. It's pretty hard to close the game quickly. You usually get in a spot where your opponent can't do much, so your Cavaliers and Nissas and stuff can take over. But that still gives the food decks a lot of time to kill you with Cat and Mayhem Devil, whereas the Simic Flash deck really counters that a bit better. And if you're not getting that much ahead on the board, yeah, it's really not impressive to cast 5/6 with Reach.
So 3 more damage here, and this is what we were talking about, the fact that this food deck can win a game without ever needing to go to combat. Because even if you play a 5/6 blocker, which is a great blocker, it's not doing anything if all the damage they're doing to you is non-combat damage.
I think there was no attack step, right? Like,
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how many attacks that Sean has declared this game, but it could very well be 0. It could very well be 0. His opponent on 3. All Sean needs to do now is untap, and this game is his. He's got that Noxious Grasp. Could use it to blow up the Cavalier of Thorns and attack with the Mayhem Devil. I don't know if that actually helps him too much.
so
I
you
don't know if
could,
there's any reason to. No, look, you just saw on his face. His face told the story. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't need to. I'll just wait.
you could technically get your opponent to 1 by making a treasure or food, and then sacrificing it with the other Gilded Goose. But, I mean, 1 is just not good enough.
No, 1 and 3 at this point are largely identical because at the beginning of Sean's next turn, he doesn't even need to draw a card before he just ends the game on the spot. So let's see if Jorge can pull something very special out of the bag here. Castle Vantress gives him a couple of extra looks. Let's see. He's thinking long and hard about what's on the top. There has to be at least one relevant piece of the puzzle there.
Now Upheaval would be a good card, I guess.
Which one?
Upheaval.
Upheaval? Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be good enough, but, you know.
Be something at least.
Omniscience into... I'm trying.
Yeah, you're trying. Right? No, and it's good. It's good that you're trying. You're desperately attempting to keep Jorge's hopes afloat here, but I don't know what there is that's going to save him here.
I can tell you what helps.
What's that?
A meteor.
A meteor. Exactly. A meteor. No, it's not going to do it here. Draws a card, finds Agent of Treachery.
Well, too little, too late.
Too little, too late. Even stealing the oven isn't going to be enough here. Agent of Treachery is probably the best card in his deck to draw right now, but does it get him out of it?
No. Gooses make treasures, foods, and sacrifice foods for damage. You could even start attacking with the cat, because that needs to be blocked to not take damage, but then if it blocked, you get it back with a food token.
Yep.
So your opponent just discarded to hand size, which is usually also not a good sign for your
It's-
state of well-being.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And Jorge hitting the rope pretty hard here now. Agent of Treachery comes down, probably going to steal that oven, maybe one of the Mayhem Devils. Let's have a look. Yep, snaps that oven straight away. Well, not straight away.
I think you have to take a devil. Both of them have 0 chance of winning, but maybe devil has like a higher chance.
Higher than zero. Both of them are 0, but one of them's higher, maybe. So Agent of Treachery picks up the Witch's Oven, but this Goose is going to poop out another food here. And between that, Wicked Wolf, Noxious Grass, Murderous Rider, Corvold, all sorts of stuff going on here. And
GG.
Jorge going to be taken down to 1, untap, and then taken down to a 0. So, easy game, easy life for Sean, the Beekeeper here, as he powers on to victory with his Jund Sacrifice deck. And that's the second Jund deck that we've seen get through. So our upper bracket right now, double Simic Flash, double Jund Sacrifice, and the lower bracket, the Dregs are going to fight it out as well in this double elimination top 8 playoff. That's going to do it here for Sean. Congratulations to him picking up a match win across 2 games. And you can hear that. I mean, Jorge's still in decent spirits after having lost that game, and his deck certainly is one of the sweeter ones at this National League final. So congratulations to him for for making it as far as he did and doing what he did, and also dressed for the season. Unfortunately, bar humbug, I say, Toffel.
Bar humbug?
Do you know Bar Humbug?
No.
So you've heard of A Christmas Carol, the Dickens novel.
I heard of it.
So Scrooge, the
Yeah.
main character in the Dickens novel, he's famous for saying bar humbug. I think it's him who said it, right? And it's a humbug or something. It's a way of saying something silly or not worth your attention. And so it's come to me, you say, bar humbug. It means it's all this frivolous nonsense. I don't have time for it. Do you know what I do have time for, though? Replays of what we've seen here. Highlights, my friends, of what we've just seen here between Jorge and Sean. You can see they both had a pretty good time throughout this game and throughout this match, indeed, as we saw the ramp deck firing on all cylinders early, building out an enormous board, but you can see the Masker Girl lurking in the hand of Sean here, threatening to take apart the board, which is exactly what it did. But a magnificent rally from Jorge there, who fired in with an enormous Hydroid Krasis at 10-10, and then that finale of devastation, poking out the top there. Casualties of War was not enough to save Sean from an onslaught brought on by those End Rays Forerunners, and that was game number 1. We move on to game number 2 now, where the engine of Trail of Crumbs, Mayhem Devil, Gilded Goose, and Witch's Oven and Cauldron Familiar was assembled very early, and that closed out the game very quickly. It will take apart an opponent's life total before too much longer, and after those 4 cards were assembled, that was that. Game number 3, very similar affair, of course, as we saw early on. Nice little bit of luck from Jorge as he pulled together Double Growth Spiral in an important early turn, but wasn't really able to gain any traction. And once again, that 4-card combo, Mayhem Devil, Trail of Crumbs, Witch's Oven, Cauldron Familiar, was assembled, and once again Toffel went to town on the life total of Jorge.
Yeah, it turns